Hello everyone, and welcome to part 5 of the Complete Dalek Timeline, a series where I chronicle the history of Doctor Who's most famous adversaries. If you missed the previous entries in the series, you can catch them all in a playlist that's linked in the description below. Unbeknownst to the Doctor, the renegade faction of Daleks were survived by the Emperor, operating under the name Dalek Prime during the Shoreditch incident. The Dalek Prime, now believing Davros and his Daleks to be dead, reinstated himself as the Dalek Emperor and asserted that Daleks loyal to him were the real Imperials, with Davros sympathisers being dubbed the new Renegades. The Emperor then reclaimed Skaro, but more on this confusing fact in a minute. Davros' escape pod was then discovered by a group of Thals, now migrated away from Skaro, and the 8th Doctor. It wasn't long before the Daleks caught sight of Davros too, and captured him to yet again be placed on trial on Skaro, along with capturing the Doctor. Upon returning to Skaro, Davros was tried by the Emperor in a plan to identify any Daleks secretly loyal to Davros, with the Doctor present as a contingency plan to execute Davros if the Emperor and his forces failed to do so. The Emperor explained to the Doctor and Davros that the Skaro that had actually been destroyed was a decoy planet named Antolin, but both the Doctor and Davros secretly rejected this idea. In truth, the more likely scenario is that the Emperor had replaced Skaro with a new planet in the time that the Imperials and Renegades spent battling each other for the Hand of Omega, foreseeing the destruction of Skaro as he did with his own assassination attempt. The Emperor then convinced his own Daleks that this was, in fact, Skaro, with them being too young to truly identify whether this was true or not, while the real Skaro and the entirety of Davros' army of Daleks were indeed destroyed. Eventually, during the trial, Daleks loyal to Davros broke out and engaged in yet another Dalek Civil War, this time on New Skaro. The Doctor managed to escape the conflict, which ended in Davros' forces this time being the losers. Davros was then sentenced to execution via matter dispersal, and the Emperor believed that to be the truth. However, Davros' executioner was secretly loyal to Davros, instead teleporting him across the universe. Davros soon found himself on the planet Azimuth, and developed an interest in the Persuasion Machine, which he would use to convert all Daleks to his cause. He would then signal the Daleks and lure them to Azimuth. The 7th Doctor soon arrived and located Davros, who unveiled a very old experiment he once performed on this planet, a clone of himself. In the time of Davros' absence, however, the clone had developed an individual personality, calling himself Fulcus, the son of Davros. The Doctor inevitably used Davros' technology against him though, and used the Persuasion Machine to destroy a group of Daleks and Davros' clone Fulcus. Davros would flee in a Dalek time machine, but the Doctor trapped him inside the ship's escape pod, diverting his course and sending him hurtling through space. While drifting through space, Davros thought back to all of his encounters with the Doctor, specifically their first interaction on Skaro during Genesis of the Daleks. Thinking back to the Doctor's metaphor of the Daleks being like a virus capable of killing all living things, Davros quite literally created a virus capable of killing all living things, just out of boredom. Soon after this, Davros was rescued by a Nekistani ship, though Davros rewarded his saviours by killing them all. Davros, losing control of the ship and falling into the time vortex, slowly began to lose his mind, isolated, enraged, grieving, and exposed to the raw might of the vortex. He was however soon discovered by the 8th Doctor and his companions Gemma and Sam. Davros managed to take control of the Doctor's companions and ordered them to render him unconscious. With the Doctor knocked out, Davros operated on the TARDIS, establishing a permanent link between himself and the time machine. Davros sent Sam and Gemma home to Earth, and left the Doctor and the TARDIS stranded on the Nekistani ship, infusing TARDIS technology with an escape pod to allow his escape. Upon leaving, Davros initiated the ship's self-destruct protocol, but the Doctor managed to awaken just in time to escape in the TARDIS, albeit with a serious case of amnesia, which is pretty typical for the 8th Doctor, all things being considered. Davros then followed Sam and Gemma back to Earth and took over the planet by forcibly mutating a large portion of the human race into yet another race of Daleks loyal to himself. After heavy exposure to the time vortex and developing a minor god complex though, Davros' mind completely split, causing him to alternate between two personalities, Davros and the Emperor, just like Jekyll and Hyde. It wouldn't be long before the 8th Doctor encountered Davros again though, now learning of his victory over Earth. Davros claimed this was an act of retaliation, with him destroying the Doctor's favourite planet to compensate for the loss of his own world. The Daleks soon recognised Davros' insanity, however, despite being loyal to him. The Doctor eventually used the Daleks' uncertainty against them, getting a hold of Davros' life-destroying virus and threatening the Daleks with it. The Doctor decreed that the Daleks would leave Earth with Davros, never to return, otherwise he would unleash the virus. The Daleks agreed and fled with Davros, who had now completely succumbed to his Emperor persona. Davros and his Daleks would then stretch out across the universe, a different breed entirely from the real Emperor's faction. The 7th Doctor would come across Davros again, who would capture him, but when the Doctor addressed Davros, he claimed to have no memory of such a name, identifying himself as, purely, the Dalek Emperor. It is also around this time that sworn enemy of the Daleks, Absalom Dark, was finally killed. This army would continue to grow across the universe, as evidenced by the Daleks identifying Charlotte Pollard, a companion of the 8th Doctor who was present during the events of Terra Firma. Davros himself, as the Emperor, would soon deteriorate completely and perish, leaving behind a whole new army of Daleks to take over his ideals. The real Emperor would also expand Dalek operations and swear to get revenge on the Time Lords for destroying Skaro. This would lead to the Emperor discovering a library on the planet Karsharat, who have recently constructed a wetworks facility containing all knowledge in the universe that can be downloaded straight into the brain. The 7th Doctor and his companion Ace soon arrive on the planet, with the Doctor intent on returning some books that he quote-unquote borrowed in the past. It is here that the Doctor discovers from the head librarian Elgin that the Daleks have attempted to attack the library recently. Unbeknownst to the Doctor though, his companion Ace has been duplicated by the Daleks and lowers the library's defence grid, allowing the Daleks access. The Daleks then plan on seizing control of the Wetworks facility, but not without the Doctor. They need his Time Lord brain to store the data for them, as tests prove that the ridiculous amount of data being poured into a Dalek mind would drive them to insanity. So, the Daleks capture the Doctor and plug him into their systems, pouring the information from the library through his brain and into the mind of a Dalek. The experiment succeeds, with the Dalek retaining an ungodly amount of universal data. This experiment also seems to kill the Doctor. A water-based species capable of inhabiting any body then appears to Ace and the librarians, claiming itself to be a creature native to Karsharat. The creature takes the Doctor's body and temporarily uploads his mind to the Wetworks facility. The creature asks the Doctor to save them and, upon him agreeing, returns him to his body. Meanwhile, more creatures native to the planet begin to infiltrate Dalek casings and drown multiple Dalek mutants, leading to the all-knowing Dalek discovering their existence and the Supreme Dalek ordering their extermination. The Supreme reports to the Emperor, who is back on New Skaro, and is instructed to destroy the planet. The Doctor and Ace have other plans though, planting multiple canisters of Nitro-9 throughout the Wetworks and blowing up the facility for good, with the natives of Karsharat drowning any Daleks that survive the explosion. The Dalek Supreme, with no chance of survival, reports their failure to the Emperor and self-destructs, setting the Daleks back quite a considerable amount. I'd just like to quickly say a massive thank you to Josh Snares for allowing me to use their animation of the Genocide Machine in this video. If you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out the full animation and the rest of their very high quality content. You can find the full animation and their channel linked in the description below. Anyway, back to the timeline. The Time Lords summon the 6th Doctor and his new companion Evelyn Smythe to help them investigate the mysterious disappearance of the oldest planetoid in the known universe, Etra Prime, as it was inhabited at the time of disappearance by 500 Gallifreyan scientists and the president of the Time Lords, former companion to the Doctor, Romana. A year after the planetoid's disappearance, 300 of the missing Gallifreyans, who had been killed due to time distortion, reappear on the planet Arcatrix, along with the planetoid itself, now on a collision course with this planet. Of course, the Time Lords soon discover that the force behind this mysterious event is none other than the Daleks. The Daleks then invade a complex holding the Doctor and various other Time Lords on Arcatrix, stealing a Monan time ship in the process. The Monan ship is then piloted by the Daleks to the secret location housing Romana, who is ordered to construct a temporal centrifuge. This device can be combined with a rare element on Etra Prime known as the Apocalypse element, and can be used to grant the Daleks immense power over space and time. Romana manages to sabotage the temporal centrifuge, however, and escapes Dalek captivity using a transmat beam. She manages to steal a mysterious crystal from the Daleks in the process, something they are determined to get back. The Daleks then launch attacks on various planets, all homes to the only other species in the universe that can time travel, in a bid to steal their technologies. The Daleks then reclaim the mysterious crystal and evacuate the planet Architrix as Etra Prime is sent hurtling towards the planet and collides with it, killing anyone on either world. Luckily, the Doctor, Evelyn and Romana escape and head to Gallifrey. The Daleks had the same idea though, and launch a full invasion of Gallifrey using technology they stole from other time travellers. The Doctor manages to trap the Daleks halfway into the Citadel though, resulting in the Daleks sending the Apocalypse element into the middle of the Serifia galaxy, claiming that the Time Lords must assist the Daleks in refining it, otherwise the entire universe will be destroyed. The Time Lords believe this to be a bluff, so the Daleks activate the element, beginning the destruction of the universe. The element works far more efficiently than the Daleks anticipated though, leaving a very limited amount of time for the Time Lords to control the destruction. In a desperate attempt to stop the element, the Time Lords agree to work with the Daleks, allowing the Daleks further entry into the Citadel. Once inside, the Daleks assassinate the placeholder president of Gallifrey and allow an entire Dalek fleet entry into the Citadel. Using this mysterious crystal, the Daleks transmit their whole army's mental power into the Eye of Harmony, containing the Apocalypse element. This might doesn't just destroy the element though, and actually creates a whole new galaxy from the rubble, while burning out all of the Daleks on Gallifrey. This Dalek sacrifice doesn't in reality set them back though, as this new galaxy proves ripe for Dalek growth and occupation, accelerating the Dalek Empire's development significantly. The Emperor, following his defeat on Karsharat, is now victorious. The Emperor's new army soon finds themselves in trouble, however, as a parasitic mutation begins affecting the Dalek Empire. The Emperor tracks this down to, yet again, the Dalek invasion of Earth in the 22nd century. Here, he discovers the Fifth Doctor and his companion Nyssa, who accidentally land in the middle of the occupation. Nyssa then gets stung by a wasp in the process of fleeing the scene, allowing the Emperor to trap the Doctor in a time corridor and transport him to their current empire in the future. Bear with me here, this wasp detail will be important. The Doctor discovers a Thal scientist working with the Emperor to eliminate the horrifying mutations, and the Emperor then shows the Doctor the mutations. Dalek mutants that develop into giant flying insectoid creatures, free of their casings and destroying everything they can, including New Skaro. The Emperor then instructs the Doctor to go back in time and prevent the mutations from occurring. Nyssa, being a scientist, discovers that the Daleks use a collective gene sampling pool for their breeding stations and have allowed wasp eggs to seep underneath a battered Dalek skin, causing the mutation. The Doctor meanwhile finds himself again on 22nd century Earth amidst the invasion and discovers that the Daleks there have no recollection of him and no understanding of time travel, despite the Emperor trying repeatedly to explain this to those Daleks. The Emperor also tries to explain that the Doctor is their mortal enemy and that no matter what they do to him, his first incarnation will still arrive and foil their invasion. The Emperor also warns the Daleks of the coming wasp mutation. The primitive Daleks find this rather hard to understand though, but get suspicious enough to check the Dalek embryos and discover the wasp eggs, effectively erasing the future timeline. However, and this is where things get complicated, the Thal scientist does not believe this to be a satisfying enough resolution and charges forward with a recently developed antidote. The Emperor then accidentally destroys the antidote, which causes the web of time to short-circuit and create a major time paradox. In a restored timeline, the Daleks of the 22nd century find and extract the wasp eggs themselves, ending the Mutant Phase. It is revealed that the Emperor sending the antidote back in time is what caused the mutation in the first place, as the previous Daleks employing the solution proved to be ineffective and allowed the mutation to evolve throughout the ages. The Emperor destroying the antidote though results in the mutation never taking place and the Emperor never travelling back in time, keeping the timeline intact. In the end, the Doctor and Nyssa are just as baffled as the rest of us, and go on with their day, barely able to explain the events of the story to each other. Using information gathered from the library on Karsharat and from the Eye of Harmony on Gallifrey, the Daleks construct a temporal extinction device, something that will allow the Daleks to conquer all of time at once. However, due to the Daleks not having a good enough temporal stabilizer, the device fails, collapsing a time corridor around the Daleks, although a Dalek strategist and pilot manage to escape the destruction. The 8th Doctor and his companion Charlie then arrive on Earth to discover that most of the Earth's population, and Charlie herself, have no recollection of Shakespeare or his works. Even worse though, the Doctor discovers a general somehow obsessed with Shakespeare and a group of Daleks going around screaming Shakespearean quotations. Oh no. The Doctor also discovers a rebellion up against the General and the Daleks, who have managed to retain very limited memories of Shakespeare due to a ripple in space-time. The General is revealed to be the world's biggest Shakespeare fan and is partnered with the Daleks, helping them construct a time machine while they ensure that she is the only human left alive that remembers Shakespeare, making Shakespeare her own intellectual property. The Daleks then coerce the Doctor into completing their time machine by holding Charlie hostage, and upon its completion, an alternate timeline begins to form in which the Daleks have always ruled Earth. Yes, the Daleks' plan revolves around them conquering Earth yet again. The Resistance managed to use the time machine though and separate Shakespeare as a young boy from his own timeline, ensuring that the Daleks never retrieve him for their own purposes. The Doctor then goes back and returns Shakespeare to his own timeline. Following this, he ensures the defeat of the Daleks, leaving the rest of the Time Destructor Daleks in a time loop of them being trapped in a collapsing time corridor forever, going back round to the beginning of the story. Confusing? Yeah, just a little bit. I don't get it either, and I've listened to it twice. In a branch timeline, the Emperor and his Dalek Empire were destroyed by Romana as an act of retaliation following their invasion of Gallifrey. This timeline bled into the Neverland, a realm outside the bounds of the universe, but ultimately never came to fruition, leaving the Dalek Empire free to continue their plans. That's all for this part of the complete Dalek timeline, but make sure to like, subscribe and turn notifications on, because the next part of the series will chronicle the Daleks' greatest victory yet.